I have to hit Zoom, I got like the video off and the volume. So
I'm gonna live another expression.
Frozen.
Are you sure?
I don't think you need either on here. Oh, is it on?
Yeah, I had plugged in and it made a noise.
It did chirp or whatever.
It's not lit
Yeah, of
up.
course, it's not lit up now, but is it unplugged? Because it did do it.
I didn't do it.
Yeah, it was lit up.
There we go.
Guilty, guilty.
No, because I've been.
Yeah,
I delivered something to your
the
neighbor.
video was on, the volume on. And we had the same time here.
Oh, okay.
It was that guy.
Oh.
So wonderful.
So I walked to the front door. Guy came out. He said, "I think you're wrong." I said, "No." And I saw the sign on the door. And I said, "Oh."
And now it's connected.
Oh, yeah, that's.
Very good. Thank you.
That's really funny.
Are we good? All right. Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm going to call this Town of Grizzle Board of Finance special meeting to order March 11th, 2026 at 6:04 in the Town Hall meeting room. First order on the agenda, roll call to order. Everyone is present. We do have a quorum. Second item on the agenda, approval of minutes, February 17th, 2026 meeting minutes.
Motion to approve?
Second.
First and second, any discussion? Hearing none, we're going to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 3, new business, work session on budget. We'll cover some of the stuff in the updates in the packets later. We'll begin with 2 presentations. Both of the Board of Ed will present tonight, and Capital will also present. We'll start with the Board of Ed. Sean?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everybody. If it's okay with you, I would just like to briefly go over the presentation that's in your packets that we provided, and then answer any questions that you may have. And it goes without saying that the Board of Education, the administration, and I come from a place of deep gratitude for the taxpayers of Bristol, for all of you in the work that you do, for our partners in the town, and the students and families that we serve. And we are happy to continue to do great work for our students, our families, and the town of Griswold. This initial budget proposal is what we're calling a maintenance budget. It elevates the whole child, it celebrates our shared asset, and it continues to, we believe, strengthen the economic vitality in town. We continue to make progress. We are bucking trends in terms of enrollment. There are many towns and many communities, the enrollment is going down. We are actually maintaining our enrollment or going up a little bit. We're actually a little bit over 1,800 students, and we're very proud of that growth. We continue to make progress each and every year, whether it's curriculum development or going after competitive grants. This past year, we were happy to secure a little over $100,000 in competitive grants to bring back programs to the district and to support our students and families. We are very proud to be the hub of the community where people can enjoy our facilities, they can enjoy our grounds, we use multi-purpose fields, and take pride in the work that we do. We continue to, thanks to the graciousness of the Board of Finance, have built a business model where we have, in fact, 7 tuition partner towns, and we continue to be very proud of that work in servicing different towns and welcoming students to our district to support the work that we're doing and to support the funding. We believe that we bring in still approximately 10% of our budget to the district, back to the district in terms of this business model. We continue to see revenue growth, even though we have hit a saturation point this year, but it's pretty impressive in terms of the work that we're doing, partnering with the different communities in southeastern Connecticut. We have had tuition overages and revenues over the past year. In addition to the tuition revenue, we bring in revenue by renting space to TVCCA and Sacred Heart University. In terms of the budget review and the preparation, we take great time to prepare this budget that you have in front of you, and if there is something that you're looking forward that was presented in terms of the budget at a previous meeting, all of the budget work is online on our website, so you can access that information 24/7. We wanted to make sure that we preserved all core academic programs in this budget. We wanted to maintain full funding for athletics and extracurricular activities. We did our best at this point. We may have shifted some funding from the general operating budget to grants to avoid staff reductions. We have a number of faculty and staff that live in our community, and we try to do our best to leverage grants. At this point in time, the budget proposal that we have is at a 4.97. We have the dollar increase amount, the dollar amount. In terms of where we started, this is important. We did start this work with the Board of Education in presenting an obligation budget. Back in December, that was at an 8.86. We reduced that at a January 22nd Board of Education budget to 6.98. And then to get this work to you in a sufficient amount of time on February 12th, despite the snow day, we were at a 4.97. Over the years, we had an average of 2.11%. This regional increase, we do have to update. There's been some information this week. For instance, Preston came in a little bit lower, but it's still averaging. The state increase is still at over 5%, and the regional increase is roughly at about 5%. This is an important number to look at, the per pupil expenditure. This measures to what extent, how do we rank in terms of all the resources that we use, and how that is divided per pupil in the state of Connecticut. We have a very low per pupil expenditure, and that speaks to our mindfulness of how we use our funds, how we use shared services, how we try to ensure that we are making the best decisions in the interest of the taxpayers and in the interest of the town. Some components to this budget that we always keep in mind are the contractual obligations increases. That includes employment contracts as well as transportation, vending, special education outplacement costs. That's been a hot ticket item we've discussed with you in recent months, and health insurance costs. The budget, we have included how this increase has been divided by salary, health insurance, MERF, unemployment insurance, facilities maintenance, transportation, vendor and supply recovery. We also have to build into this budget, it is a requirement by the state of Connecticut, the tuition that goes out to students and families who opt to enact school choice. So if they go to a school that's a private school, we have to pay their tuition. We also have to pay busing to students who opt to go to technical high schools. And so that is roughly about $436,000 each and every year that's in this budget. We have all the staffing and enrollment data here for you to review. We also included for the Board of Finance a packet on historical that dates back several years in terms of staffing. We are here to answer any questions you have tonight, and if you have future questions, we are certainly prepared to answer those. If we can't answer a question this evening, we certainly will get that information to you. We are firm believers in a strong school, strong community, and strong property values, and at this point in time, we will field any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you, Sean. Anyone have any questions?
I have a question. On the total budget drivers contractual obligations, what comprises, what makes up the term vendor?
Vendor could be things like maintenance contracts, it could be professional services that we have to do for special education. That's what most of it is, the professional services that we pay for to other outside entities. That's not tuition.
Anyone else? I've got a few questions for you, Sean. You talked about the per pupil expenditure and the comparison, and Grizzle being third from the bottom. Is it safe to say that a portion of that savings or lack of expenditure is related to the fact that you're really only on one campus?
Yes.
How much do you think that weighs in that expenditure?
I don't have an exact precise amount, but let me give you a practical example. So for instance, we have, physical therapy, we have shared services. So rather than having one in each building, we have a person that goes out to all the buildings.
Right.
I think from a very practical standpoint, when we have, for instance, recent, and I said it in this forum, I regret saying it about the snow clearing. We have one site. We have two, but the town helps us out with Griswold Soul Street Academy. But unlike where I live in Groton, there are 7 different sites. So having one site, one blueprint helps reduce those costs.
Right.
We have an OT therapist that circulates between different buildings or among the different buildings. So to your point, I don't have an exact numerical, but does it help? Absolutely.
So it's not, I mean, when you look at that and you say, holy smokes, Grizzle's, third to the bottom of what they spend, they need to spend more money, but it doesn't really capture the, the true picture in the sense that Grizzle is unique in that we're afforded that single campus, so there is a
And I think
cost
another thing
savings
is,
there.
being on one campus, we have one set of outside maintenance people. We have, our athletic fields, we're all on the same campus. I think that's a piece of the.
So it's not as extreme, I guess, when you look at this and you say, oh my gosh, they should be spending significantly more. It's not necessarily as extreme because there is a, significant cost savings by
And
the
we've
shared
had
campus.
I would add over the years, and you have all been a part of this, certainly the town, we've done a gas conversion. So that has helped with fuel. So we've also done, thanks to Jewett City Electric, a retro lighting project where all of our buildings have LED lights, and that reduces costs. So we have tried to take those steps necessary to reduce costs in other areas.
Okay. Insurance costs that you budgeted for when you guys finalized your budget. Have your costs settled in yet? Did you get an idea on where your costs are going to be? I know the town, they got an answer, their firm, on what the increase is. Have you guys received that information yet?
It's not finalized yet. It's still going to be probably between 15 and 19%. We did budget for 19%.
Okay.
And we will have to eventually, if we do switch plans, we're gonna have to engage, obviously, the Board of Education, but the attorney to write up MOAs to the contracts. Because right now, we're in HP plans.
So worst case, you're budgeted for 19, but it could come in as low as maybe
We're hoping.
15. Okay. All right. I want to talk a little bit about where you are this year and how it relates to the proposed budget. You mentioned that you were shifting or have shifted certain operational costs into grants.
Yes.
Okay, so obviously those are only 1-year or 2-year grants, I'm going to assume, right? So where does that put you then next year?
So typically, they're formula-based grants or entitlement grants, and it's based on particularly, we're probably talking mostly about Title I or IDEA. Title I is to support districts that have a high degree of students that are eligible for free and reduced lunch. Right now, we're at about 54%. IDEA is the special education grant that can help out. So we have shifted some salaries after checking to the state out of the operating budget into Title I because that's acceptable, or some of the special education support services out of the operating budget into IDEA grants.
Okay, so by shifting those, did that have an impact on where you came in for this proposed budget?
Yes.
Okay. And I guess with regard to these special ed cost overruns, and we've had that conversation for as long as you've been the superintendent, it's just never been as extreme as it has been this year. Have you been able to kind of figure out how you might be able to mitigate some of those overruns moving forward?
It's always tricky, it's always, yes, and we're doing a number of things. We're keeping a close eye on the budget this year. We are engaging all of our outplacement sites for next year. The chair and I signed a regional letter to advocate to the state of Connecticut that they have to get this under control because it's putting an enormous burden on us to make this work. So for example, we just had, and again, when I have these discussions, we love kids. We're not here to demonize children or their unique exceptionalities, but we just had a student that was DCF placed in our district, I think in the past 3 weeks. And that was, Mr. Chairman, if I may, I'll defer to Chris.
Sure.
That is an expense we didn't anticipate, but we can claim it through excess costs. So Chris, I don't know if you can.
So just similar, luckily, it's been 1, last year it was 6. Student whose biological family is now residing in town overnight, you get no warning, as we've learned in the past. If the student is residentially placed in a placement that we don't control because they're placed there by the state of Connecticut, but we're responsible for the special education services, related services, and tuition. Because it is a DCF placed student, we do get more excess costs than we do for the traditional placement. I was able to include it on the March 1st update because they do open that application a few times a year for schools to account for any new students that meet certain criteria. Because it was a DCF placed student, which essentially is out of our control, we could claim that. So the cost this year is not bad, but obviously the budget was already submitted when we got that notification. I think it came in during the snowstorm. So here we are again.
So I always have a concern when we have, our first conversation in September, and you say, hey, we're in a freeze because we had, all of these special ed cost overruns, and usually if it's not September, it's definitely but when we're talking in October. So I always have that concern. How do we land this? What does that mean for the end result when we're trying to settle things up at the end? And I guess from just that perspective, from how I look at it and how I approach it from the dollars and cents side, has it reached a point where it makes sense for districts to either regionalize or bring some of the stuff back locally that has been outsourced previously?
Great question. So yes, and we have been in what I would call loose discussions with different districts. We did increase that line for outplacement from 1.5 million to 1.9 million for next year. Yes, those conversations are going on as we speak, but nothing has been formalized yet. Nothing.
Sure.
We're prepared to bring it forward to the Board of Education. But, and I think, Mr. Chairman, the tricky part of this is not just the tuition, but the transportation. So then it becomes a game of, like, we have a site up at EastCon where we transport. Can we find a partner locally that can offer the same level services at a more reasonable tuition rate, but the transportation costs are not as significant because it's closer, right? And that is part of the dilemma, the dilemmas that we face. It's tuition plus transportation.
Okay. Everybody all set down here? Yeah, all set down this end? Good. Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is capital. Jim?
It's going to be a slightly different presentation than the past. I'm not going to do a 20-year presentation this year because I need to get new data on some of the things that we've already bought. And my records haven't caught up with the other ones yet. But one of the hardest things for the capital improvement committee to do is prioritize the millions of dollars of funding that we're going to put out there this year for the various departments. The committee does the best it can, but it's a long, arduous process. And initially, we prioritized our original plan based on what the priorities were of the various groups that submit capital requests to us. In 2024, I believe it was, the Board of Finance and the Finance Director, they created a policy. And so it was suggested that we look at that policy and prioritize in that manner, which we did do. We came out with a number of a totally different priority list that wasn't really close to what we initially chose. But we did end up funding 13 projects out of 85 that were listed on the 5-year plan. There were also suggestions to use grants to try and fill some of those requests. And it was mixed emotions from the committee because some of us thought that it would be too risky trying to get grants for this year, while others thought it was doable. And I think both, as it turns out, both ideas had their merits in some regards. Let's see. The overall suggested budget for this year is $1.8 million. I'm just going to round the numbers off, which is a 3.5% increase over last year's budget. Breakdown by departments was $104,226 for Board of Ed, $80,000 for Human Services, $349,825 for Emergency Services, and $1,286,000 for Public Works, of which 1.1 million goes into the road fund. And so that doesn't leave us an awful lot of money to fund all the rest of the smaller items, anywhere from like $10,000 up to a couple $100,000 maybe. So 60% of the proposed budget is allocated to the road fund. And and I'm going to talk about that a little bit later tonight. I don't usually get into that, but I see Todd here, and he can fill in a couple of details for me. The committee has proposed a lease purchase for replacement of ET 355, an engine tanker. We went around on that quite a bit with the finance director and talked about various funding operations for that. And what we finally decided was to put the brush truck into the regular $1.8 million budget that we were asking for, and then lease purchase the ET 355. I think it's really in the purview of the finance director and the board of finance to decide what is the better way to do that, whether we finance both on a lease purchase or whether we only fund ET 355 on it. All right, before I get into the next section, any questions on the sheet that I passed out? Okay, moving on. I'm gonna talk about the, I'm gonna go to the longer term plan. We pass these down also. I'm gonna give you a couple extras for down at the other table there.
Mr. Chairman, I actually have one question.
Go ahead.
When you're talking about the lease purchase,
Yes.
what are we talking per year for a lease purchase on the vehicles?
That is something that would be worked out between the finance director and the board of finance. I don't have any idea what that is. I think we've been doing 5-year leases recently. But if we were gonna do both ET 355 is it, and the brush truck, that's probably gonna have to climb over $1 million on the lease purchase. But one other comment I wanna make is that we have a quote, that they worked on for buying both of those, and if we order them both, and I think they can be ordered, one on a lease purchase and one on the regular budget, I think we've got about a $78,000 savings. So it's worthwhile considering buying both of those at the same time. Any other questions? All right, the last one, the second sheet I passed out to you, that is only a 5 and 10-year plan. I decided to put the 5-year plan on it also. And like I said, I didn't do a 20-year plan this year. I just don't have enough good data to put that one together to have it make sense. On the 10-year plan, as you can see, we're carrying a number of, well, I think there's 2 roofs on it, and there's some other fairly expensive items on it. Now, I think I'm carrying $1 million for the roofs, and I don't know whether that number is valid or not, but I think that the state, I think the roofs get something like 72% of funding from the state. Is that more or less correct or not? You know? Okay.
Yeah, they fluctuate.
But yeah,
They'll fluctuate with the state, whatever grant they want to be giving.
Yeah.
Percentage-wise.
so, like I say, you got a 5 and a 10-year plan, but I wanted to have them separated. Just for the convenience of the smaller sheet for everybody trying to look at the 5-year plan, which is the main focus. And I will say on the capital plan for last year, well, I'm gonna back up a moment. We had Todd, you can correct me if I'm on the wrong path, but I think we lost a plow truck during one of these major storms we had, and it was down, and they had to substitute a medium duty truck for that.
What's that?
We lost one of the main trucks for plowing, and he's got another one that the frame is gone, gonna go away. So we would be in really serious trouble if we hadn't bought 2 trucks off of opera funds this past year. They bought a plow truck, and then they bought a medium duty truck also. I think it was an F-550, if I'm not mistaken. So just, we gotta keep that in mind, that our equipment, if we hadn't got that $1 million+ from ARPA, we would be down 2 more trucks than we are now. Any others? Any other questions or anything?
Is that it?
I got one more sheet that's gonna take me a minute. Okay.
I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
I have a question, Jim. Under the Board of Ed, I see references to scoreboards. I recollect a few years back, there was some sort of arrangement or contract that had been made with a company where they would pay for the scoreboards if they could get advertising. Did that not happen, so that we're budgeting for scoreboards now?
I think there was some, I don't remember conversation of someone that made that offer, but hey, my memory isn't like it used to be.
I
Sean?
think, Gail, you're referring to the scoreboard as a capital committee item. So that is for the scoreboards in the gymnasium, they're 34 years old. That's not the same thing as the table scoreboard that we have in the gymnasium, which is
Okay.
self-paid by the advertiser.
Got it.
I certainly understand why you would make
Yeah.
that connection.
So before we go into the road study, the road portion of the capital budget, I got a couple of questions and a couple of comments. You mentioned we came out and adopted a policy with regard to capital and how it was supposed to, you're supposed to proceed, submission dates, what qualifies for capital, dollar thresholds and whatnot. One of those items was submission date, and that was quite purposefully put in there by us for a very, very specific reason, and it had to do with making sure that everything was done in a timely fashion, there weren't last-minute submissions, and keep that process fluid. If I'm not mistaken, I believe that the only person that submitted within the required timeline would have been Griswold Fire Department. I don't believe that anybody else did. One of the provisions within that policy is the possibility that certain things don't get considered moving forward, and obviously, this year was a little bit of an anomaly with changing of positions and vacancies and whatnot. So moving forward into next year, everybody needs to be cognizant of what those submission dates are. And look, we understand that if you've got to submit by, I don't remember what it was now, September, October, prices are going to change. You're not going to get somebody that's going to lock you in, but we need to get the ball rolling with a running list. And as you start to get those prices, then you can provide those to Kelly, and she can continue to run with that and keep that list updated. But I'm going to strongly urge those of you that are submitting things to Capital to take a look at that policy and make sure that you understand what it says and what the submission dates are, so that you don't potentially get penalized in future years. I talked to Ryan Aubin yesterday with regard to the playground. He indicated that he's not going to be looking for 80,000 in the capital budget, that number has been reduced down to 30,000. He indicated that he received word that the town is going to be receiving some sort of a 3-year grant. I think it's $50,000 or $55,000. I forget what the exact figure was. Over 3 years. It starts, I think, in May. He has a little over $20,000, I believe he said, in donations. So that puts the shortfall on pulling this playground project off to about 30,000, so that number can be changed to 30. I did voice some concerns with regard to hidden costs such as installation, deconstruction of the old unit, and he told me that actually it was going to be taken care of by the playground, I'm gonna say manufacturer, and maybe I'm using the wrong word there, but whoever he's buying it from, that this $200,000 cost of the equipment is actually $255,000, I believe he said, but they were treating that extra 55 almost like a grant for installation purposes, and they were going to go ahead and be putting that in. So I wanted to let everybody know about that. I do want to talk about a couple of these things that are on the list, and actually before I go that far, brush truck. Is there a reason why it wasn't considered for lease purchase? Would it make sense or not make sense to include that as part of a lease purchase as opposed to paying
Interest
for
rates
it
now
all?
on lease purchase are higher than average over the past few years.
Okay.
Usually lease purchases have been less.
Okay,
Now they're 5 to 7%,
Okay.
if more. So that's the reason why I
Okay.
kept it in. You have one more year on another lease purchase. So in the budget we're discussing right now, you have one more, and then lease purchases will be gone.
okay,
So
Okay.
we were maybe trying to hold off.
okay, all right.
How many did we have at one time? Did we have 3 or 4, or?
Lease purchases or items, lease purchase. Right now you have one.
Right, but it seemed to me we had 2
Not
or
that
3
I know
others.
of, not that
Okay.
I can see on the debt schedule going back.
My recollection is we've only had one
Yeah.
as long as I've been doing this. That's a long time.
Okay,
There was discussion at one point to add a second one, but I don't think that didn't go anyplace.
so I want to talk about your list, I guess, of priorities on some of these items. And, you know, we've said, you know, every year we say the same thing, that at the end of the day, the true authority on what stays and what goes lies with the Board of Finance. However, we try to remain flexible and give you the opportunity to juggle things around accordingly because of the enormous amount of work that you put in and, you know, your committee puts into this. But I did have some questions or some concerns with regard to the priority of some of this. And I want to talk a little bit about, I guess, the Board of Ed list. I know that there was a list that was, I want to say, maybe ratified, and if it's the wrong word, Sean, correct me, by the Board of Ed on what the priority was going to be as far as capital projects.
Yeah, the Board of Ed votes on it.
Okay.
We had a late submission, which I explained to the capital committee, so they vote on the priorities.
Okay.
That's correct.
So obviously, you know, you had generator for GPS pump house. I'm going to guess that's kind of an emergency type of a situation. You had a 1A that was scoreboard at GHS, and I'm going to guess that's an emergency in the sense that you need to have that scoreboard. And am I correct in that?
Yeah, if you've been to congratulations to the Wolverines for doing so well in the playoffs. If you've been to the games, it's kind of awkward, and it is something that we've attempted to repair. It's a 34-year-old board.
Yep.
So when we presented this to the board, I think it was in January 22nd, they voted to put that high on the priority list.
Okay, and then you had AC replacement at GHS Life Skills that was listed as your number 2. And then you had a bunch of other HVAC systems, gym, cafeteria, band room, chorus, where band room and chorus were at the kind of at the end of that list there. I mean, obviously there were other ones, but certain things made the cut and certain didn't. So I guess my question is, do you have another, so the scoreboard at 1A, which you're kind of indicating is an emergency, came in at a priority number 11. You had that listed, well above the other ACs, life skills, gym, cafeteria, band room, chorus room. And they came in at a higher priority, and I don't know, I guess I'm kind of curious as to why, if you're coming in and saying, hey, we really need this, and we're kind of in a 911 and we need this now, that it got such a lower level of priority. With regard to, I guess, the ACs, life skills, would you consider it to be kind of a life safety issue or not so much?
It's an important safety issue.
Okay.
For that particular program.
And like band room, I'm hearing that the band room was put in there because you have new instruments?
We do, we have had new instruments, new
Okay.
grants.
And if the band room didn't get the AC, because did the AC in that band room break, or has it never had AC?
It's never had AC.
Okay. So what did you do with the instruments before when it didn't have AC?
The instruments were relocated to another location on campus.
So they could still be relocated to another room on campus then? Okay.
Just as a point for the high school life skills, that classroom's used all summer. And we have students from tuition towns that are also in that room, so making sure that it's temperature controlled.
Sure.
In July when they're all there is a nice.
Makes sense.
Ooh, baby, is it hot down there?
That makes sense. I guess the band one the band one is the one that I'm kind of was more confused about than anything else, that somehow that got a priority, because I didn't think there was AC in there.
May I speak? I might be able to
Absolutely.
explain.
Okay.
So I'm the Board of Finance representative for the Capital Committee, and we went through this prioritization procedure where we try to keep the prioritization given within each department, maintain that priority. So, and one of the key things we thought as the top items were to go after, to make safety issues a top priority, and then next on the list would be saving more money if we were to spend the money this year as opposed to previous years. So we started out with listing all the items for Todd's area, and we maintained Todd's priority because he's the expert. We trusted his judgment on what was important. We then went through every single item and inserted these items in relative to Todd's position, and we all kind of looked at it. So if you're looking at the Board of Education, the generator for the pump house was a very high priority because it's safety, and if you look at the overall list, it's number one of all the items. Because you need to have a pump house in case there's a fire, for fire suppression. As we went down the list, next item looking at there was the scoreboard. And someone at the capital prioritization meeting on February 4th stated that the Booster Club would pay for the scoreboard. And I know that I was influenced by that, and I believe other members on the prioritization committee were influenced by that. And so we kind of moved that down to a lower priority, and I'll get to where that ended up. But we again looked at the next item on the list, which was the AC replacement at the GHS Life Skills. And we all thought that that was a safety issue. But the selectmen stated you need AC during the summertime, and we thought that was all very much a life an issue. So within the Board of Education, we had the generator followed by the life skills. So it bothered me a little bit that we had taken the expert's opinion, Board of Education's opinion, and moved and rearranged that based on some information. So I tried to find out if there was any truth to the fact that the Booster Club would be able to pay for the scoreboard. So I checked with Glenn LaBasse, and he had told me that he had contact with the Booster Club, and they stated that they were not interested in paying for the scoreboard. So with that information, if you look at the way in which we prioritized just the Board of Education items, they were within just the Board of Education budget. We had the pump house, We have the AC replacement, GHS life skills, the new HVA system for the GHS band room, the scoreboard at GHS, and then the final item was the new HVA system for the GHS chorus. It's my opinion, and I don't know, I haven't really checked with anybody else on the capital committee, but I believe that the scoreboard and the new HVAC system for the band room should be swapped, so that the priority would go pump house, AC replacement, life skills, scoreboard, HVAC for the band room, and then followed by HVAC for the chorus room. And that's just my opinion, based on the priority that was given to us and based on how things could really be paid for. And then I can throw additional information in that, and I try to think of it as what item provides the most benefit to the most people. So if you look at the number of people that attend games and all the other functions that occur in the gymnasium, it's my opinion that the scoreboard should be placed higher than the band room AC, which we just found out today has an option. Currently, the equipment can be moved to another area that has AC. So I think that helps explain your questions as to how things got out of order compared to what was originally presented by the Board of Education.
If I may, Scott? And thank you, Tom, that was an excellent presentation on what got us to where we did. But there's also in your policy, there is a schedule or listing of priorities. And we followed that schedule of listings, that priority listings that was in that policy fairly closely. And so that's why some of these numbers came up where they did. I mean, my personal opinion, and it's not, I'm not speaking for the board, just myself, is that what was said, I think by Tom, that the people who were prioritizing these should have the best knowledge of what we need. And my recommendation is to largely follow the priorities as put forward by the different departments. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Tom. It makes perfect sense based on the information that you shared, that you would flip-flop the scoreboard with the band room. I agree.
Okay, any more questions?
If I could, in regards to the band room, only because I have personal knowledge with how they've acquired some really good equipment. They do use that during the summer, those rooms. So I don't know the feasibility of transporting those things back and forth every day for the use. And a lot of them are sensitive to temperature. Those very expensive, and I know the kids love them. But my real question is, why is the playground rated so high as number 6?
Because they have I think it's $100,000 grant from Jewett City Savings Bank, and we were trying to subsidize some of that for what they needed to complete the playground.
I was under the impression that that was all gonna be privately funded, and that the town was not gonna put any money into that.
I'm not disputing that, but Tom's probably got a much better memory than I have at this point, but I don't recall that any time we knew that the town, that there was all gonna be private funded, but correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, there was always, like you say, it started out at 80,000, maybe even started at 100,000. And then Ryan came to us and said, well, I've got $20,000 worth of donations.
Right.
And that number then adjusted to 80,000, from my recollection. And now it's being adjusted down even more to what, 30,000.
Well, I can see $30,000 worth of better uses. I could see better uses for $30,000 than.
Well, there, like I say, one
But
of our
that's
priorities,
my
items listed in our capital part is, eliminating hazard to public safety, and somewhere on this, it talks about stabilizing or reducing operating costs, so we're gonna cost us more, we've got this money that's available to us. If we don't capitalize and take that money, this playground's gonna be much more expensive in the future. So that's where, that helps come into play of where we put the priority.
Does anybody else have any questions or any comments?
Not right now.
Okay, two things. First, I want to give the superintendent the ability to perhaps answer Mr. Hamill's question about the feasibility of moving various instruments back and forth. I mean, there hasn't been AC, I don't know how it's been done in the past, and I don't know if you guys have thought about any of that, or?
Yeah, for summertime, we could, during the school time, we couldn't move them into certain areas. In the summer, when the school is pretty much empty, we have areas we can move those things to that have AC.
Right.
It's really a summertime thing with the instruments. It's the moisture and the dew and humidity. So we do have the ability for those times in the summer where they could access these and other rooms that we have that are air conditioned. That are close by.
Okay. So they would still be available for summertime practice or whatever is going on? Okay.
Is that band camp as well? Yes.
I would assume it's when they do some of those summer programs.
So, and I would just like to take a moment and poll the board about your opinion on what Tom had indicated, that he felt that the scoreboard should be flip-flopped in priority with the band room HVAC. So I'd like to kind of poll the board and get your feelings or your opinion on that. I'll start with you, Mark.
Well, there's a significant investment by the school and the town in these instruments, and we would not want to see them damaged. That's a loss, right? And, transporting them, I don't know how you're planning on doing that. If you have racks that you can wheel around, I mean, what are we talking about? Cellos and trumpets and?
It really be the students when they're there, they go down to another room, right off the band room, go into another class. That is it. We have some AC rooms because of computers, and they would just pick up their instrument.
Okay, so, that's my concern, is that, it's an investment in the future, and maybe it's not gonna be less years from now. If we can get school, someone to pay for the scoreboard, that would be helpful. It certainly is a branding opportunity. But I seem to think that perhaps the investment in the HVAC is more important than the scoreboard.
Okay. Richard?
I think that, obviously, the pump house is number one, and I put a high value on a scoreboard only because of its age, and I assume it's the original scoreboard, yeah, and it's widely used. I mean, let's face it, the general public, the taxpayers themselves use that facility, and if that scoreboard should fail during that would be, there'd be pointing fingers all over the place. But I think that those and the AC for the life skills, as the gentleman pointed out, is vital during the summer months. So those would be my top three priorities as far as I'm concerned.
Gail?
With all due respect to my colleague, my feeling is that having grown up in Griswold, the Booster Club historically paid for things like scoreboards, and I'm sort of surprised that the conversation we didn't take a deeper dive into that conversation to see if they're not interested in paying for that, what are they interested in paying for? And that's a side discussion, but I have always been a proponent of encouraging all the students and paying attention to the fact that we do spend a lot of money on athletics, and sometimes the students that get, have interest in other areas get a lot fewer dollars. And we're here to serve all the students. My feeling is that the HVAC for the band room should be increased for priority. I feel that perhaps that would encourage more students to utilize the music system, to participate more. It's a life skill that goes far beyond high school, elementary school. I just feel that we need to pay attention to all the students, not just the athletes.
Okay. Rob?
I'm actually going to agree with Gail. Wow. And I come from a position where I see the benefits of the music program. Just not only in my kids' lives, but in other kids. And I've seen, because I'm so involved with a lot of the kids up at the school, I've seen where kids have really benefited from being able to take part in the music program, who aren't athletic. And I'm an athlete. I grew up as an athlete, but also was in the music department. And I know it helps build a lot of character. And it is true that the athletics do get more funding, more attention. And the kids in the arts aren't readily recognized. And we have a great arts department at the high school. It's a phenomenal program that they have there. One of the best ones I can say in the area. And just for a point of reference, I know a number of kids who have gone on, because of what they've gotten from the teachers and the program there, have gone on to be able to be successful in college and gotten scholarships for music and other things. And I would venture to say probably more so than on the athletic side. But I think, and not to mention air conditioning is important than the scoreboard. And that's just my thoughts.
Okay. Matt?
Mine's a lot more simple. Jim, I know what your priority is for the capital committee, you can see that. Who requests the priority from them, the priority requester? Who is that?
Well,
The school system?
there's two columns there, there's a B and a C. The C column is the requests and the priorities that came from the department. So, yeah, you asked about the school department, it's the C column. Anything in the C column is the priorities of that.
I just want to make sure everybody knows that.
Yeah, I meant to say that at the beginning, unfortunately.
Okay, so as simple as I can make it, the generator was number one. Looks like the scoreboard was moved to 1A. I'm expecting that from you guys, so it's a high priority. It's probably higher than the AC in the band room. So if I just go by what you guys want, I would say the scoreboard's number two. So to me, scoreboard's high up there because that's what the school wants. Not what we want as the Board of Finance, but what the school needs. So to me, the scoreboard's number two for what the school wants and needs. Simple.
Okay, thank you.
May I make a final comment?
Absolutely.
Kind of adds on to what Matt was saying. This priority came from the Board of Education, elected members by our town. And they helped determine what the priority was. And it unanimously voted on this priority. So I think we should trust the priority of what the school, the Board of Education members thought was best for the benefit of the students. And in the scoreboard not only benefits the students, but it also benefits the community with all the people that attend, all the people that pay entry fees to watch the games. And now you have tuitioning students that are helping contribute to the bottom line with this role. And I think that's why I'm leaning towards the scoreboard over the band room.
Okay. Well, Jim, quite likely, as the budget gets closer to the end point, probably gonna, I can imagine on this one, we may end up wanting to weigh in on some of these priorities. Typically, we've done my best to try to hold everybody back for you, but I have a feeling that we're gonna as a board weigh in on some of those, so just to kind of give you a heads up, and we'll obviously have to sit and have more of a conversation on this.
I'm sure, I do, and I'm sure the board, and I think we have 3 board members here in the audience, I'll appreciate that.
Yeah.
We realize that ultimately the decision is with the Board of Finance, and we can certainly do that.
Okay, all right, and you want to talk about?
No, well, the only thing is when we talked about the policy, there was a point in that policy that mentioned an inventory of capital items. And I guess I'm suggesting that possibly that we look into doing that, because that would certainly make it a lot easier and more accurate on these plans that we put together, because we know when something was bought and what the expected life is for it, and I think we can do a better job of planning.
Okay, that's probably something that we can pull a report on an asset list, yeah.
Anything else? All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jim.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
just a quick statement. I know we spent a lot of time on what we just talked about, but, and I know capital is something that we'll be looking at, but after this whole discussion, that doesn't mean that the band room will get cut. It's obviously, we're talking about it, but I don't want to go down that, bad road right off the bat, so.
Mr. Chairman, I know that in looking at the spreadsheet and we're between a rock and a hard spot, like we are every year, you raised the question of why had we considered the brush truck as a lease purchase. And I know the interest rates are higher now, but prices are going up on everything, and we don't know what's gonna happen in the next year or two. Perhaps we could get an analysis that goes to whether we should look at both pieces on lease purchase. Because when you do the lease purchase, you lock in the lease and the purchase price, even though you're paying the interest rate,
Right.
that might be a little higher, you're locking in that price, right? So I'm thinking that if we're looking for any relief and we know that we have a lot of services that we need to provide, that perhaps we should look at both of those.
Right. So just an aside on capital. Last year, we did cut capital by $550,000, but we made capital whole because we used our overage by policy to back fund of sorts capital. So essentially, they did not get cut. So that is one of the things that we will need to look at as we kind of begin deliberations. So Gail, when you talk about lease purchase and combining them, are you talking about possibly looking at doing a lease purchase this year of both of those trucks?
Both of them, yeah.
Okay. So Kelly did give us quite a bit of things, of papers. The binder clip packet, those are replacement pages for your current selectmen's budget. That is the adopted proposed budget for general government, so that can replace whatever existing pages you need to. The budget that you find in the back of the paper-clipped packet, loose. That is this year's budget.
It's a current budget, so you can see year-to-date where we are, so if you want to compare it to the budget.
So we can make some comparisons. Currently, as everything is presented right now, we're looking at a 3.3 mil increase. All of the revenues have not been finalized. The big one is going to be the tuition revenue, and that won't be done until probably, what, is it normally we talk the third week of March, roughly?
Board is scheduled to meet March 26th.
Okay.
Probably be at that meeting.
Yeah, so, you know, my concern, obviously, when we look at that revenue is that we perhaps are a little more conservative with that tuition number. The fact that we are at the saturation point certainly means that that number is going to become exponentially more volatile. It's great when it works in our favor. It's bad when Sean has to sit at our January meeting and say, hey, I have some bad news. Here's where we are right now. And I would like to do everything in our control to not have that same conversation next year. So I think that when we look at the revenue projections for tuition, we need to be a little more conservative, understanding that the revenue number is likely going to go up naturally because the tuition for each sending town is increasing. So if all things were to stay the same, that number is going to go up, but I think we're going to need to take that number and perhaps look at maybe reducing that by, you know, $100,000 or $200,000, or, you know, whatever we want to use as our methodology to bring some more conservatism into that number, so that we don't run into this problem. Especially if we end up having another year where maybe we're having to figure out how to land a plane for a second year in a row. Just, it seems like when it rains, it pours. So, what else? Kelly, if you can kind of speak to, we talked about the Town Aid Road Fund.
Yeah. So when I came on board, I noticed Town Aid Road wasn't posted as a revenue source. It's as a special fund. And a lot of towns do that, and that is acceptable. So I reached out to the auditor and asked, what do you recommend, what we're doing right now, or if we post it as revenue and moved it over to the fund? She, as an email I attached your second page in the packet, she stated that it's fine how we're handling it right now. There's no reason to change it as a special fund, and leave it as is. So not to include it in the budget as a revenue and expenditure, just leave it as a special Town Aid Road Fund. And you can see that in the email. So I just wanted to make note of that.
Is there an advantage, disadvantage one way or the other, or it really doesn't matter?
It's 50-50, towns do it either way. So
Okay.
some do it one way, some does it the other way, like we're currently doing.
Okay.
And it's fine.
Okay, so with that fund, if we left it where it was, maybe we should look at maybe getting a quarterly report
Yeah. we
on
can do
that fund, so that we can, you know, remain current on where we land on that.
Yep, we can do that.
Okay. Any questions for Kelly? Go ahead.
Kelly, just looking through here
Yes.
with the year-to-date to the budget,
Yep.
right? We've got what, 5 months left? 4 months?
We have 4 months.
Yeah.
4.
How are we looking towards this current budget?
Expenditures.
Yeah, I mean, are we
So-
looking at being,
You're gonna be within budget, so if you look at the packet I gave you for the current numbers, you'll see, I know you guys are gonna wanna know, snow.
well, I see that we're,
Okay, so you
Double
can
that
see
budget,
that, so we're roughly over, I wanna say 60,000 roughly.
yeah.
We're down a person in that department, so we might be able to absorb that within the department.
Mhm.
so that's beneficial. You guys had a contingency, I wanna say 120,000 in this budget, and we touched a little of it for, Griswold Fire, but that's it. It was, I think, $8,000. That's all we touched out of there so far this year, so that's beneficial. There was something else I noticed today that you guys, an expenditure that you're not going to incur or come anywhere near the budget. I don't remember what it was, but it was a substantial amount. So right now, no, you're not gonna over budget. I can tell you one thing, I wanted to bring up revenue, so the recycling fees of solid waste. Right now, we have budgeted 400,000, in the current budget, we've already incurred 411,000 revenue. So I'm already over $11,000, I have 4 more months to collect. So what I'm estimating, that's gonna be 600,000 by the end of the year, so that's more revenue. So in next year's budget, I propose to increase the solid waste recyclable fees to $625. We're gonna increase the rate as of July 1, another $4, so you definitely should be able to make your money back.
So you've increased that to 625?
Yes. Yep. By the end of this year, you should get 600,000.
And you're comfortable with that increase?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
And you did reduce the revenue for Parks and Rec?
Yes. I spoke to Ryan, it was kind of an aggressive number. He felt more comfortable at 190,000, so that's gonna be reflected in here too.
Okay.
190,000.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Does anybody want to take any action on anything that we heard tonight?
Not at this time.
Okay. Mark, you're all set?
Good.
Gail, you're all set? Tom, you're all set? Rob?
I just want to thank you guys for coming tonight and with your presentations. Thank you very much.
And Matt? All set. Okay, then final item on the agenda is adjournment.
Make the motion to adjourn.
Second on motion?
All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. We are adjourned.
So, Scott, I really think, you're waiting.
Yeah, just make sure the hour is off.
Well, thank you. Eric helped me.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I do appreciate it. There's so many windows open. Oh my God.
Correct.
That's so funny.